as just plywood.
I think it looks good.
I'm pretty impressed. Hopefully you guys can tell what it looks like. Alright guys, today we're going to try to see if we can put plywood on the ceiling and make it look good on a budget rather than tongue and groove. We hate sheetrock, hate all that stuff. So we're going to try to figure out a new idea. Alright guys, as you can tell, we have spray foam insulation and it wasn't enough, so went ahead and put the pink insulation on top. We're just stapling that back up before we start with the plywood. I ended up cutting some 1x3s down for some spacers since the rafters weren't really squared, so I had to pull the insulation down and then I just tacked it back up whenever I was finished. We ended up buying 1/2-inch cabinet grade plywood since we can get it fairly cheap at our local lumber yard rather than going to Lowe's and spending a fortune just on normal plywood. We also thought it would look a little better. We pre-drilled some holes before we stuck the plywood up to make sure we can get the wiring for our lights through. We cut the holes as small as we possibly could because we didn't know what size lights we were using yet and we didn't want to overcut. Once we put the first sheet of plywood on, we realized this was going to be harder than we thought. We ended up screwing a small board to the wall to hold the plywood up as we climbed the ladder. So something you guys have to take into consideration, if you're doing a shed to house, you did not build this.
Yeah.
It was not what?
Square.
Not at all. So let me show you. So on this side, we ran straight down the middle of the rafter. Well, then this side, you probably can't tell too much, but the gap there is tiny. And then as you come this way, the gap is a lot bigger. So that's the reality of doing a shed to house rather than building yourself, is you never know quality control, and they try to pump these out as fast as they can. So nothing against this company, nothing against who had this before we got this. It's just that's how it goes when you deal with shed to houses. As you can tell, we struggled a little bit putting it up there. It would have been a lot easier if the rafters were squared and on 24-inch centers, but unfortunately they weren't. So we just did our best, just kept moving. Again, we had to pre-drill some holes so we can run the wire through. It makes it easy when you have two people, but you could do it yourself. It's just a lot more handy when you have some extra hands. Yeah. Okay. In this spot, we had a disaster. It took us forever. We tried everything we could to get the plywood on there straight. We had to cut some. We had to cut some of the rafters. We had to do all sorts of things, but we finally got it. We needed to finish up the tongue and groove so we could finish the plywood. It was just an easy little section, so we finished that up, threw the plywood up on the other side, and got on with it. This was the spot that I didn't know what to do. For some reason, they put a large 2x8 as a header, so it made it really awkward to work with. So we ended up going through about 100 designs. We tried to do the easiest thing possible, and so we just built it out. We brought the wall down. Instead of using the gap, we just covered it up. Oh, how I feel bad. I don't know. It definitely looks weird in the moment.
Yeah. But what I was just saying too is just like the original off-grid shed that we did. You didn't like the tin that we did at first until we started trimming it.
Yeah.
And then it looked great.
So that's what I'm hoping with this. So comment down below at this point. You think we messed up or will it look good? Oh, is that golden oak? Too, that you can like take a chain or whatever and beat it up if you want it to look a little more rustic. Let's see if we left the street. We'll slide it this way. I'll hold this board and I'm gonna climb up there. It's covering this side all the way down?
Yes.
Alright guys, we did the same thing, except on this one, we had to cut a notch here where the ceiling goes up. So exact same thing, just a fake beam, except we notched out right here to fit the contour of the ceiling.
Take your hat and jacket off.
And then it's gonna be the same thing on this side too. Trying to hold it flush with the bottom. Alright guys, I like it. I'm not really sure how I feel about it just yet. We need to stain it.
Yes.
But as just plywood,
I think it looks good.
I'm pretty impressed. Now here's one thing we would have done different.
As you can tell, we went a little bit skinnier on the trim on this part. Probably would have looked better going fatter.
Yeah, so they are 1.5 inches. We basically, well, 1 3/4. We cut the board in half so we would have more. If we were living in here, I would redo it. I'd take them down and I would do the full 3.5 inches up there. But for a studio and what we're using this for, perfectly fine. But that's what I would say if you were building out a shed to house for a house. I would go a little bit thicker so it matches the middle beam. It just helps the ceiling stand out a little bit better. But
I still think it looks good.
yes, it looks really good. And we have ideas, you guys could see. We're gonna have lights coming down. We're gonna have paneling in here, soundproofing, stuff like that, because this is gonna be a studio and a hangout area and all of that. So anything to cut some of the noise down in this box of nothing but wood is gonna help. So I guess the only thing we have left to do now is stain. Unfortunately, you have to go to work.
Yeah.
So.
And then too, if you didn't notice, we did sample.
Yes.
To see if we liked it.
Yeah. So we're gonna stain everything that color, and then we're gonna go from there, whether we like it or not. At the end of this video, you're gonna tell, and we want you to comment down below. I hope it translates well in the video. I'm not sure color-wise, but for what it is, I'm very pumped. And again, and I guess we never talked about it, the windows still need to come down a little bit more. We were just trying to get the ceiling finished and not worry about the windows in the moment. So the windows will be coming down a little bit more. We got to cut some of the tongue and groove, trimming out and all that. But our main goal today was to finish all of this. And one thing, I'm pumped. This we thought about.
Oh, that
nailed it.
Yeah, we could not figure out what to do, but I'm very.
That was actually your idea.
Yeah, it was.
So I was trying to utilize that gap and do all of that, and it just became such a hassle the way it was built out. I have no idea what my brother was planning on doing, but I think this is the best bet. Plus, this underneath part right here is going to benefit us as far as lights and holding stuff for our podcast and all that type of stuff. So for us and our use, I think that was the best thing, and we're hoping that when we stain, it'll set that part of the dormer off. That's the hopes here. So we're gonna stain and see what it looks like. I tried my best throughout the whole video to get the colors correct. It was very difficult with the lighting and with everything being so yellow, but we started throwing the stain up on the trim, and then on the plywood, I was a little worried. It definitely was a little more brown than I expected using the honey oak color stain, but it ended up coming out pretty nice. Again, I know the colors probably don't match the video to what it does in real life, but it is a little more brown in real life and not so much the yellow color. I tried to dull down the yellow in the video so you could tell, but it does look a lot better in person than it does in video. Alright guys, it may be a little dark, it's overcast today, we waited till the next day to stain, and of course it's overcast, but hopefully you guys can tell what it looks like. It does look a lot different stained than it did just plain. I'll say that. It was a drastic change. I didn't know how I would like it. I was a little worried, but I left, I came back, I looked, I like it. So I do still need to finish this side. We just have too much stuff in here right now, so we're gonna have to move that out and finish it, but I did want to show you guys what it looks like with the stain and the unstained right there, and then stained and unstained, just so you can see it right next to each other. It makes a lot of a difference, but as you can tell, huge difference. I'm loving the way it looks. At first, again, I was like, oh, I don't know, I think I messed up. But the more I see it, the more I like it. I leave the room, I come back, and it's not so crazy. Plus, we're gonna do some brown flooring in here, so I think it's gonna really match. It's gonna be awesome. If you guys are interested in doing something like this, don't be scared to try something new. We did cabinet grade plywood. We got it for really cheap. We did 1/2 inch. And we're gonna throw a clear coat over it, so it's gonna look a little different. You guys have to stick around for that. But with the faux beam in the middle, hiding everything, we probably would have gone a little thicker, like we said, on the other seams and stuff, but it looks great for what it is. We're very, very happy. It was a lot easier to slap that up than tongue and groove. It was a few spots here and there that were a little off, but hey, that's why we do trim work, and it looks freaking phenomenal. You would never know that it was not squared. So hopefully you guys like this. If you do, stick around. Again, I think this right here came out really well. Also, it really flows together, and it's gonna work perfectly for our studio. We're not gonna live in this. We're just doing this for our studio. We're gonna have a podcast, my desk set up, maybe a bar area over here. In the room over there will end up being a bathroom or something else. And then we have another room back here that is going to be our movie room, hang out, watch TV, play PlayStation, and all that stuff. This is our awesome hangout zone in here. And I think this ceiling really goes with what we're looking for.